Okay. Good morning, everyone. Um, Welcome back. Good to see you, Soham. Good morning, Kaushiki. Good morning, Sumit. Namaste. Good morning. Okay, so we start with one of the most important standards from your academic as well as from a general practical perspective. Okay, that is Ind AS 103 that deals with business combinations. Post this, we will continue with Ind AS 110 that deals with consolidation. You have just come from a very what you can say, a study of very complex standards like financial instruments. Okay, so compared to that, Ind AS 103 and 110 are definitely quite simple to understand, easy to follow, and scoring. Both these standards, 103, 110, and 111, which deals with joint arrangements, as well as Ind AS 28, which deals with joint ventures. All these four standards are very scoring, easy to understand, but yes, the content is huge. So from that perspective, it may appear that it's complicated, but it certainly is not. Okay. So this is a very important standard. You almost always will have questions on 103 or 110 appearing in your examinations. Okay, it could range from anywhere between 6 marks to a 12-mark question, or even a probable 16-mark question. Okay, where you will have to prepare a consolidated balance sheet, so on and so forth. Okay, so from that perspective also, it's a very important topic. So this is drawn from, as the numbering you are aware, this is drawn from IFRS 3 that deals with business combinations. Okay. Now coming to the subject proper. You would have studied in your intermediate two standards, that is Accounting Standard 14, which dealt with accounting for amalgamations, and you would have studied AS 21. You would have studied AS 21. Now, Ind AS 103, Ind AS 103 and Ind AS 110, in a crude sense, they correspond to AS 14 as well as AS 21. AS 14, AS 21, which dealt with amalgamation and consolidation respectively, we are having similar standards in 103 and 110, but this is a very crude sense of interpreting it. Okay, I'm saying it is crude. Please don't say that sir has taught this outside. Okay, they are having reasonably sufficient grounds to say that both of them are quite different in terms of concepts. Okay, but the substance is what I have just now explained. Now, when we talk about business combinations, there will be lot of stories in this standard. Okay, lot of stories, and with these stories, I hope that we can get the concepts clear. So there is a company you would all be aware of. There is a Tata Sons Trust. Now, this trust created a company known as Thales. It created a company known as Thales. Thales acquired Air India. Thales acquired Air India sometime last year. Okay, by paying, I'm not sure about the figures, but I'm just writing it, for 18,000 crores. So Air India, when it acquired Air India, at that point of time, Air India had, let us assume, 150 planes in its fleet. It had 150 aircraft, 150 aircraft in its fleet, narrow, wide-bodied, small aircraft, all of them put together. At the same time, Thales, now this is made up. Thales went to Airbus to place an order for 100 planes. Now, when it went to place an order for 100, let us assume it went to Airbus. And it placed an order for 100 planes. What I want you to tell me is this acquisition of Air India and is the purchase of 100 planes same or is it different? Is it different? Okay, this is the point where we start business combinations. Okay, good morning, Srishti. Good morning, Nidhi. Yes, so tell me, is the acquisition of 150 planes via acquisition of Air India the same as placing an order for 100 aircraft with Airbus, or is it different? It is different. Soham is saying it's different. Kaushik is saying it's different. Yes, it is different. Why is it different? Because when I acquired Air India's 150 planes, along with that, I have acquired the staff of Air India, the working people, the ground staff, the ticketing staff, the accounts and administrative staff, the cabin crew, the pilots, all these people I have acquired along with the Air India that came to Thales. Along with that, I have also acquired something known as landing rights. What do you mean by landing rights? Well, an aircraft gets particular slots at each and every airport. Those slots were the reason why Air India was a very valuable target for Tatas, because they have prime slots. Since it was a flagship carrier of India, they had prime slots across all international airports, and that was the reason Air India was a very, very valuable acquisition for Tatas, apart from the prestige factor. Okay, so it got the landing rights at various airports. Along with that, it has not only done this, it has acquired manuals, processes. See, I am in a business that involves flying my aircraft. And since I'm flying my aircraft, there will be procedures and processes on how the aircraft should move, what should be done in case of an emergency, how the cabin crew should conduct themselves, what will be the, the meal services provided on board. All this whole data is there. How do I push the aircraft? When do I push the aircraft? Baggage handling. Each and every activity in the airline company Air India had documented manuals, had documented processes, and all these is what was acquired by Thales when it successfully bid for the company known as Air India. On the contrary, when Thales acquires 100 planes from Airbus, what does it get? It only gets 100 aeroplanes. That's it. It only gets 100 planes. What do you do with these 100 planes? Where do you park it? Where do you keep it? Airbus is not going to tell you anything about that. Okay. It is ultimately, there is no, there will be there will be a warranty on these aircraft parts. There will be a user guide. There will be training sessions, simulations that will be conducted. But apart from that, there is no other process transfer, no staff transfer, no manuals, certainly no landing rights, nothing. So in the case of Air India, we call this to be a business. We call this to be a business combination. We call this to be a business combination. In other words, we call Air India a business. We call Air India a business. Whereas in the case of this, it is nothing but asset acquisition. It is nothing but asset acquisition, where the 100 aeroplanes are nothing but assets for the company Thales. Okay. So for business combinations to happen, for something to qualify as a business combination, Ind AS 103 will apply when I have a business, and I acquire control over that business. Okay. There is a business and I acquire control over that business. When these two things are satisfied, it means that business combination has taken place. We will have to look at Ind AS 103 to see what is the next step. Now, when I talk about business, this is explained in detail in 103, which we will be discussing right now. Control over the business is covered under Ind AS 110, which we will be discussing right now, which we will be discussing just after the business. Sumit, I will come to that. Okay, just hold your this thing. Okay, drop your queries, but I will be addressing them towards the later part of today's session. Okay. All right. Business plus control over the business. Both these things are there. All right. Now, what do you mean by business? This is defined in Ind AS 103. You saw that Air India was a business. Why Air India was a business? Well, it had assets. It had property, plant and equipment. It had intangible assets in the form of landing rights, procedures, manuals, etc. It had a team of employees ranging from cabin crew to the pilots to the ground staff to the accounts and administrative staff. It had its own internal audit teams to carry out the inspections, team of engineers. So you have something known as inputs. You have something known as inputs. Who are these inputs? We just now discussed. It could be property, plant and equipment, or it could be intangible assets, or it could be staff or employees of the entity. Employees of the entity. Okay, so these are the things that Air India already had. Along with this, it had certain defined processes. It had certain defined processes. There is a checklist of things that will be done when the aircraft is airborne, when the aircraft is on ground. The series of processes regarding recognition of revenue, regarding booking of costs, all these are documented processes which are available with the business. Okay, it's not necessary to document, but there is a process manual. There is a process that is being followed for everything. So processes means what? Set of rules, procedures, set of rules, procedures that may be written or not. So having a document is not necessary. If it's there, it's fine. If it's not there, that is also fine. But what we mean by processes is core processes which have the ability to generate revenue. When I talk about processes, it is core process which generates revenue. That is production process or service provision process. Okay. It's not any XYZ process that we are talking about here. It's not any XYZ process. For instance, let me come back to the same example. Thales acquired Air India. Fair enough. At the same time, Thales went to, let us take one of your known companies. Thales went to PwC. PwC has an accounts and administration team that is always ready. Okay, it's a team of trained accountants, trained accounting staff. So what Thales did was it acquired the reporting division of PwC. it acquired the reporting division of PwC. What does the reporting division of PwC do? It is basically trained to book the entries, record the transactions, okay, follow the accounting standards, ensure that books are maintained, records are kept, legal provisions are complied with. All this is, let us assume, done by the reporting division of PwC. Thales acquires the reporting division of PwC and puts them on the job for accounting for Air India, for accounting for Air India's acquisition, Air India's day-to-day transactions, everything. Now, does the reporting division of PwC have staff? Yes, it has staff. Does it have manuals? Does it have processes? Yes, it has. They know how to document entries in the accounting software. They know how to take the backup at regular intervals to ensure that in the case of a disruption, the business is not impacted. All these things are documented manuals and processes. But from the perspective of Air India, you tell me, is it a core process? Is it a core process? Or is it merely an ancillary process for Thales? Is it merely an ancillary process, or what can I say, administrative process? Can I say this? Or sir, accounting is core for any entity. What do you guys think? Think from the perspective of the business. Don't think from the perspective of an accountant or the perspective of an audit firm. Think from the perspective of business. Financial reporting division, is it a core revenue generating process, or is it merely an ancillary process? Kaushiki is saying ancillary. Soham has also agreed. I hope that Rahul, Nidhi, Sumit, Gopi, all of you are also on the same page that this accounting is merely an administrative process from a business perspective. So when Thales has acquired the reporting division of PwC to carry on the operations, there is no business acquisition which is involved. There is no business acquisition which is involved. And therefore, we cannot call this reporting division to be a business for the perspective of Thales's Air India acquisition. But now let us move ahead and suppose we change this to EY. EY has acquired the reporting division of PwC. Now you tell me whether this acquisition by EY of the reporting division of PwC, okay, all these companies, these big four entities have various divisions, okay, mergers and acquisitions, valuations, this, that, everything, okay. So now EY has acquired the reporting division of PwC. Now in this case, tell me, is this acquisition of reporting division of PwC a core process? Answer is yes. In this case, it becomes a core process. And because it becomes a core process in this case, EY acquiring a reporting division of PwC satisfies the conditions of business as far as the processes are concerned. We still have one more aspect of business to be discussed, but so far we have inputs in the reporting division. Yes, we have inputs, we have staff, we have trained staff with knowledge of IFRS accounting standards. We have trained staff who know how to pass entries, how to take the backups, how to carry on the transactions, maintain documentation, comply with the legal requirements. All this is aware, and as a matter of fact, that is what EY also does. And therefore, this becomes a core process from the perspective of EY, and therefore it could end up being a business, subject to one last leg of the business definition that we are discussing. So processes means set of rules, procedures that may be written, may not be written. Okay, anything could be there, but which process we are talking about? We are talking about revenue generating core processes. This should be there in the acquisition that has just taken place. Plus ability to generate output. Ability to generate output. What do you mean by ability to generate output? This is basically concerned with your revenue. This is basically concerned with your revenue generation. Ability should exist. Should exist. Actual revenue होना है ऐसा नहीं लिखा है. The standard says ability should be present. It is not necessary that revenue should exist right now. Revenue can exist in the future or can arise in the future also. Okay. So actual revenue could be, one second, I'll just pull this down. Actual revenue could arise in the future. Actual revenue could arise in the future. This is like we see the startups now. Startups do not have revenues initially, okay, but they have inputs, they have processes, they have ability to generate output, and therefore they fall within the term of within the definition of business. You can please note this part down or click a screenshot or something. So whenever we talk about business combination, the first thing that should exist is what we call as a business. What we call as a business. Business hai bhai, to baki sab kuch hai. Okay. If business is not there, it will merely amount to acquisition of assets. It will merely amount to acquisition of assets. Is it okay? Yes. Have you guys understood so far? Have you guys understood so far? Yes. Noted. Okay, fine. Kaush, Rahul, did you follow? Anuj Sharma. Anuj Sharma. I think you were there earlier. Not very sure. Okay. Gopi, Nidhi, Soham, all clear. Yes. Srishti, all well. Good to go. Yes. Okay. Fine. So now coming to the next aspect. Now, let us move on to certain other examples. Okay. Why discuss? Okay. First, we'll complete the discussions on business. Okay. A Limited is a company that exists in India. Okay. M Limited is a company that is domiciled in Mauritius. It is a company that is domiciled in Mauritius. Okay. So this is domiciled in Mauritius only because of the tax concessions. It's a tax haven. Mauritius is a tax haven. So that is why you have M Limited located there. Okay. If I look at M Limited's balance sheet, there is equity share capital of 1,000 rupees. I'm keeping it quite simple. There is equity share capital of 1,000 rupees. There is bank balance of 800 rupees and there is negligible property, plant and equipment of 200 rupees. Okay. There is negligible balance of 200 rupees property, plant and equipment, which is basically a chair and table that is there in the office situated in Mauritius, in the office which is situated in Mauritius. Basically, this M Limited is a conduit. Okay, I'm not talking about legal, illegal from tax perspective and all that. Okay, park it aside, park income tax aside, park transfer pricing aside, forget everything. M Limited is incorporated in Mauritius because it is a tax haven, and A Limited is looking for investments for acquiring companies in the tax havens like Mauritius, Luxembourg, okay, or all these Cayman Islands, etc. So it saw this Mauritius based company and it saw that equity share capital 1000, bank 800, PPE 200. Basically, by acquiring M Limited, what A Limited is getting is a Mauritius address. A Mauritius address. Okay. And since it is acquiring a company based in Mauritius, what A Limited does is A Limited will go to the shareholder of M Limited and says, I want to acquire your company. So he says, okay, fair enough. So what is the consideration which you will pay? So A Limited will say, look, you are just an entity with an address. So I will be paying you exactly 1000 rupees. I will be paying you exactly 1000 rupees because that is the value of your business. But M Limited says no. 1000 में तो ये काम नहीं होगा. So then A Limited will tell, fine, let us negotiate and settle it at 1100 rupees. Let us settle and negotiate it at 1100 rupees. So for 1100 rupees, A Limited acquired M Limited's business. Okay. So 1100 rupees. Now let us put things in picture. Let us put things in picture. Okay. Forget everything else. Forget everything, whatever you have studied in the past. Now usko bhul jaiye. Please forget that. Okay. I have acquired M Limited, whose net worth is 1000. Whose net worth is 1000. Now you tell me, is M Limited a business? What do you need for a business? Sir, I need inputs. I need processes. I need the ability to generate revenue in the future. What is M Limited? It is just an address. It is just a location in Mauritius. That's it. उसके पास staff है? नहीं. Just one accountant is there who comes once a week to just update the bank balance, which will change only on account of some interest on account of the deposit that is there in the bank. उसके अलावा कुछ नहीं करता वो. Accountant भी permanent नहीं है. Whatever is there, he comes just to update it. Okay, the owner of the M Limited calls the accountant, bank balance change हो गया, आके account कर दो. That is when he does the accounting. Property, plant and equipment के नाम पे there is a table, there is a chair, so that the accountant will come and pass the entries. That's it. Apart from this, nothing is there. So in terms of input, there is neither property, plant and equipment. There is no staff. There is no staff. There are no processes. M Limited does not carry on any activity which generates it revenue. If you look at the profit and loss account of M Limited, the only thing which you can see in the P&L is bank charges. Apart from that, nothing is there. Apart from that, nothing is there. Okay. And is there an ability to generate revenue? कैसे करेगा? कुछ भी नहीं है उसके पास. ना process है, ना plans है, neither does it have assets, nor does it have any plans to carry on business at all in the future. So neither inputs, nor processes, nor revenue. All the three things do not exist. And because all the three things do not exist, will it be a business in terms of Ind AS 103? Answer is no, it will not be a business. It will not be a business. But what is the purchase consideration? PC is basically what you pay to acquire a company. What you pay to acquire a company. The purchase consideration is 1,100. The purchase consideration is 1,100. And all of you would be aware a little bit from AS14 that this is not AS14, but I'm just drawing parallels. Net assets acquired is 1,000. Purchase consideration acquired is 1,100. So if I have to strictly look at AS14, 100 is an excess amount that is paid. 100 is an excess amount that is paid. Now you have paid excess amount. You tell me, you guys are coming from accounting for amalgamations background. I now want you to revisit that particular chapter in your mind and tell me this excess amount which is paid, forget the present 103. Think from perspective of amalgamation or consolidation which you have studied. Where will this 100 go? And I'm getting the answer from Srishti and Kaushiki that this 100 will go to goodwill. This 100 will go to goodwill, and it's absolutely right. In terms of AS21 or AS14, any excess that was paid over the net assets of the company that is acquired or that is being consolidated, that excess would go and sit under goodwill. Absolutely right. That would go and sit under goodwill. Ankur is saying Nidhi, Rahul, Saraswati, Sumit, all these guys are correct when you said that any excess that is being paid will go and sit in goodwill. ये तो था a rule-based approach. This was a rule-based approach. Accounting standard had certain drawbacks, and we have tried to change or plug in the drawbacks that was there in Ind AS. Now, look at the fact. The base thing is M Limited is not a business. M Limited is not a business. Okay. भाई ये business ही नहीं है. If it is not a business, neither does it have inputs, nor does it have processes, nor does it have output, nor the ability to generate output. वो सिर्फ एक address है. It is like a website domain name that is acquired and kept, जिसपे कुछ posting नहीं है, कुछ updates नहीं है. It is not a business. So when it is not a business, how can the question of goodwill arise? Are you able to understand the problem between accounting standards and the fundamental question that IFRS is talking about? Accounting standards never saw what is the target company. Accounting standards did not look at the substance of the acquisition. The substance of the acquisition in this case is not acquiring a business. The substance of the acquisition is getting an address in Mauritius. The substance is not getting a business. The substance is getting an address in Mauritius, getting an entity which is incorporated in Mauritius. So basically, I am acquiring M Limited solely for the purpose of getting a location in Mauritius for the tax benefits which are being provided there. In other words, M Limited carried on the process of incorporating a company, filing the ROC requirements with the company laws of Mauritius, and it has kept an updated company ready for you. If you have to then go and freshly incorporate a company, you will have to go to the authorities, you will have to hire a lawyer, you will have to draft an articles of association, memorandum of association, or whatever they are called under the Mauritius companies laws. And once this is done, you will have to pay for the authorized capital stamp duty, you will have to subscribe the money. Basically, it is a long drawn legal process that would have been carried out in case A Limited had to go and set up a company in Mauritius. वो तो नहीं हो रहा ना यहाँ पे तो बना बनाया कंपनी मिल रहा है अपने को. I am getting a company that is ready made. That is why I am paying 100 rupees extra. This 100 rupees extra is not on account of goodwill, because what I have acquired is not a business in the first place. I have acquired what we call typically as a shell company. I have acquired a shell company, and when I have acquired this shell company, उसके पास ना तो कोई process है, ना तो कोई inputs है, ना तो कोई revenue है. So the excess which I have paid cannot be called goodwill. Cannot be called goodwill. What will it be then, sir? हमने extra क्यों pay किया? Well, I have paid extra because M Limited has taken the pains to incorporate a company in Mauritius. So what Ind AS tells us is this will not be goodwill under the Ind AS regime. This will be something like preliminary expenses or incorporation expenses, which will ultimately go to the profit and loss account, which will ultimately go to the profit and loss account. ये goodwill नहीं है. This is not your goodwill because what you have acquired is not a business. Have you understood where this process is leading to? Yes, where this is leading to, we are looking at the fundamentals first, whether what I have acquired is a business or not. And basis that, the excess that we have paid, whether it is goodwill or capital reserve or is it a P&L item, all those things will start moving. Have you understood? Have you understood this part, everyone? Yes, Soham got it, Kaushiki got it, Srishti got it, Nidhi got it. Good. So in business combinations, whenever we have to apply business combination, the first thing that you have to ask is the target a business? Is the target a business? If yes, Ind AS 103. If no, it is just an asset acquisition. In other words, agar business nahi hai, if what you have acquired is not a business, the question of booking goodwill does not arise. The question of booking goodwill does not arise. It is not only in the case of shell companies. Okay, it could be applicable to any entity जिसमें ना तो कोई business है, ना कोई इनपुट है, ना कोई प्रोसेस है, ना कोई आउटपुट है. Okay, in these three cases. Okay, any one condition is not fulfilled, it is not a business. It is not a business. Okay, so basically it ultimately boils down to, it is just a structure that is there. It is just a structure that is there. Okay, so ये हो गया मेरा discussion. Okay, in this question, would it amount to an asset acquisition? Definitely. Aapko kya mila? What are you actually getting? You are getting a bank balance of 800 rupees. You are getting property, plant and equipment of 200 rupees. That's it. Beyond that, you are not getting anything. So it is an asset acquisition in Mauritius. That's it. That's all that is there in that. Okay, so ye ho gaya mera understanding of business. Ye ho gaya understanding of business. So when I talk about AS 14 or when I talk about AS 21, the fundamental presumption there was company acquired. Very good. Deemed that business is acquired. हम लोग सोचते ही नहीं थे. We would never even think about the fact कि मेरा target company कर क्या रहा है. We would never think about the fact whether there is an output in the target company or not, whether there is an ability to generate output in the future or not. We do not record this. We do not record this as an we do not record this as what you can say an asset acquisition. Target company hai na, it would go on the form of the acquisition. Target company kya hai? It is a company. Company hai to business hoga. It is not looking at the substance. It was looking at the form of the transaction. Ind AS 103. Ind AS 103 goes behind the form and looks at the substance. Looks at the substance. Company acquired. Company acquired, not necessary that business is acquired. Not necessary that business is acquired. It's not necessary. Okay. So whenever you acquire a company, you will first have to look whether that company is a business. If yes, 103. If no, it's not 103. Okay. Kaushiki, we don't charge this to P&L. 800 asset only will be recognized. 200 also asset only will be recognized. This 100 rupees extra which is paid, this will go to the P&L because it is an excess that you have paid, which would be regarded in substance as the incorporation expenses that you would have incurred if you had to do it yourself in Mauritius. The M Limited company has fulfilled that formality, and therefore that is saved for you. You are paying excess to compensate them for the efforts which they have taken. So therefore this excess amount alone would be taken to the P&L in Ind AS 103 terms. Okay. Sir, are there any conditions for classification of business, or is it at the discretion of the reporting entity? This is where Ind AS gets interesting. Ind AS gives you the principles. After that, how you interpret is what is your choice. Okay. So whether it is an entity or whether it is a business or not, the reporting entity should alone decide. Apart from that, there is no other guidance which is there. So it is a principle based approach that we are having. Okay. Let us move on to the next part. When you look at AS14, now please pay attention. I had amalgamation. Two companies come together. So A Limited, B Limited came together to form AB Limited. ये तो पढ़ा ही रहेगा, अपने को तो याद है, ये चार्ट बनाते थे हम. It would involve two liquidations, one incorporation. It would involve amalgamation. Two companies join hands. Amalgamation, two or more companies liquidate. There is one incorporation. The other case was absorption. A Limited acquires B Limited. In other words, there would be one liquidation and no incorporation. So amalgamation ho gaya, absorption ho gaya. A Limited absorbs B Limited. So AS14 fundamentally believed that when you were acquiring a company, the target company would close off. This was the presumption that we had in AS14. However, Ind AS 103 removes that presumption. And tells you to look at the substance of the transaction. Okay. Now let us move to another scenario. There is a company HUL. Okay, there is a company, Hindustan Unilever Limited. Hindustan Unilever Limited acquired the healthcare division, healthcare FMCG division of GlaxoSmithKline. You can have a look at this. It's there somewhere in 2019-20 or 2019-20. This acquisition took place. HUL acquired the healthcare division of GlaxoSmithKline. It's not acquiring the company. GlaxoSmithKline आज भी है, वो pharma company है. It has acquired one division of GlaxoSmithKline. Okay. Put your thinking caps and tell me, under the AS regime, you had studied two accounting standards, AS14, AS21. Okay. Now you tell me, forget Ind AS, what we discussed right now. You tell me, AS14. Will AS14 have applied to, would AS14 be applied to this transaction? Unilever acquired the healthcare division of another company. GlaxoSmithKline is not shutting down. GlaxoSmithKline बंद नहीं हो रहा है, उसका एक division transfer हो रहा है to Unilever. So now my question is, will AS14 apply in this acquisition? Answer is no, it won't. Kaushiki is saying no. Others, I want you to tell me, forget Ind AS, AS14 के केस में, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Is AS14 going to apply? Is AS14 going to apply in this case? GlaxoSmithKline is not shutting down. GlaxoSmithKline is not shutting down. उसका सिर्फ एक डिविजन जा रहा है. Just one division is going. That's it. GlaxoSmithKline exists even today. GSK has two divisions. One was healthcare. The other is pharma. Healthcare division or consumer care division, which contained brands like Horlicks, I suppose, ये division transfer हो गया to Unilever. Unilever, as we know, is a giant in the FMCG industry. So they thought that this will give better synergies. So GSK transferred this division to Unilever. It transferred this division to Unilever. Pharma division abhi bhi hai. It is still there. GSK is still there. GSK is not shutting down. GSK है, it's वाकई में है, उसका liquidation नहीं हुआ, it's not liquidated. It's just one division that is being transferred. So now tell me, will AS14 be applicable? Answer is no, it will not, because the fundamental presumption of AS14 was target company बंद होना चाहिए. The target company should be closed, which is not happening here. Which is not happening here. And therefore, AS14 would not apply. AS14 would not apply. Fair enough. I'm following accounting standards. AS14 will not apply because GSK hasn't liquidated. All right. Now we move on to AS21. Did you acquire the equity shares of GlaxoSmithKline? Answer is no, you haven't. GSK is an independent entity today of HUL. सिर्फ एक डिविजन ट्रांसफर होके गया है यूनिलीवर के पास. देयर इज जस्ट वन डिविजन ऑफ जीएसके व्हिच इज ट्रांसफर्ड. दैट्स इट. देयर इज नो GSK's owners have not transferred their shareholding to HUL. The owners of GlaxoSmithKline have not transferred their shares in GlaxoSmithKline to Unilever. And therefore, will AS21 apply? Answer is no, it will not apply. Sir, तो ये accounting standards के अंडर में ये क्या होगा? What will this be under the IGAP regime? Under the IGAP regime, we would have treated it as a slump sale. We would have treated it as a slump sale, which is basically asset acquisition, Fair enough. I'm going perfectly right under my IGAP. I'm going perfectly fine under IGAP. You would have studied slump sale even in your Income Tax Act section 50C or 50B, something like that is there. Okay. So it would be regarded as an asset acquisition under the IGAP regime. Under the IGAP regime, हम लोग assets लेते and Unilever would account for these assets on a line by line basis. Excellent. Now we come to Ind AS regime. Okay. When I talk about Ind AS regime, as we discussed, the first question we have to ask is, what you are acquiring, is it a business or not? Ind AS does not say, are you acquiring a company? Are you acquiring a division? Are you acquiring a branch? Are you acquiring a subsidiary? कुछ नहीं पूछता है. Ind AS asks you a more fundamental question. Bhai, what are you acquiring? Is that a business or not? And you tell me now, is this acquisition of a division of GSK, is it meeting the definition of, is this meeting the definition of AS of business? Is healthcare division meeting the definition of business? सर बिजनेस के लिए इनपुट चाहिए, है ना इनपुट? हेल्थकेयर डिवीजन का प्रॉपर्टी प्लांट इक्विपमेंट है, हेल्थकेयर डिवीजन वुड हैव इट्स ओन मशीनरी, हेल्थकेयर डिवीजन वुड हैव इट्स ओन साइट्स वेयर हॉर्लिक्स एंड सिमिलर प्रोडक्ट्स आर getting manufactured. Healthcare division would be having its own staff. Healthcare division would be having its own processes. It would be having its manuals, procedures relating to the core production process of the products. And at the same time, is it able to generate revenue? Definitely. Horlicks is a revenue generating brand today also, and therefore revenue generation hota hai. So in terms of Ind AS, it would be business acquisition. It would be business acquisition, and therefore where it will come? It will come under Ind AS 103. And because it came under Ind AS 103, if you have made any extra payment, then goodwill will be recognized here. Whereas in this case, we are treating it as an asset acquisition. We are not treating it as a business acquisition because of the limited perspective that accounting standards gave us, because of the loophole, because the way the accounting standards were framed, they never saw the substance of the transaction as far as this type of acquisitions were concerned. They would say AS 14 lagega, nahi lagega, because GlaxoSmithKline is not closing. Will AS 21 apply? Nahi. Line by line, these divisions are transferred to HUL. Physically, assets jo hai in GSK is physically moved to Unilever by way of a slump sale agreement. There will be an agreement which is drafted that we are transferring the division, the consumer healthcare division, to Unilever for a consideration of, let us say, 1,400 crores. And this is transferred via a slump sale agreement. Individual assets chale gaye unke paas. And then what Unilever will do? Unilever will take a fair valuation of those assets and record it. There would not be any goodwill that is recognized. Because in AS terms, this would be mere acquisition of assets. So yahan pe will goodwill be recognized? Answer is no. But in terms of Ind AS, will goodwill be recognized? It is a resounding yes. Because what we have acquired is a business. Have you understood the fundamental differences now? I have explained to you, taking the example of a shell company. In AS regime, we would recognize goodwill. In Ind AS, we would not recognize goodwill. I have taken the counter also. Acquiring a division, a running division of an existing company in AS regime would be treated as asset acquisition without goodwill. In Ind AS regime, it would be treated as a business. Goodwill would certainly be recognized. Kaushiki, are you convinced why AS 21 won't apply? You are not acquiring shares in GlaxoSmithKline. You are acquiring the division as such. Okay. So, jab shares acquire ho hi nahi rahe hain, for AS 21, you have to have a shareholding more than 50%, which is not the case here. HUL is acquiring a division of GlaxoSmithKline. Okay. See, HUL is acquiring a division of GSK. When it is acquiring a division of GSK, where will the purchase consideration flow? GSK is selling its assets. So purchase consideration will flow to GSK itself. Purchase consideration will flow to GSK. For AS 21 to apply, the purchase consideration would have to flow to owners of GlaxoSmithKline. It would have to flow to owners of GlaxoSmithKline. Then the shares would come and be held by HUL. HUL ke standalone mein you would find investment in GlaxoSmithKline. However, in this case of division transfer, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. These assets would form a part of Unilever's property, plant and equipment. It would form a part of Unilever's property, plant and equipment. So therefore, this was the more fundamental understanding that we have. The heart of AS14, AS21 and Ind AS 103. The heart lies in this figure, goodwill. The whole standard, when we study, you have to keep in mind that it is all centered around goodwill. ये पूरे standard का जो crux है, the hero of this standard is goodwill. हमारा goodwill का figure सही होना चाहिए. Goodwill should be correct. Each and every explanation that we are going to give will ultimately center in on the fact that is the goodwill that I'm going to recognize true and fair. If that is fine, then Ind AS 103 is applied correctly. If my goodwill ka figure calculation is moving, it means that is not certain, not true, not fair. It means 103 hasn't been applied properly. It means 103 hasn't been applied properly. Have you understood? Yes. Have you guys understood? Sure. So now let us move on to the next part. By business combination ka business to pad liya. Now we move on to what is known as a combination. Now we move on to what is known as a combination. For the purposes of combination, it is essential that you get control over the business. It is essential that you get control over the business. Okay. And what do you mean by control? What do you mean by control? Put करके बोलोगे सर कंट्रोल मीन्स मोर देन 50% स्टेक. वो था AS21 के जमाने में. It was the case under AS21. However, there is a very beautiful definition that is given in Ind AS 110 as far as control is concerned. Control again occupies or has three parts to its definition. The first one is power to direct relevant activities. Power to direct relevant activities. This is the first part. Along with power, you should be having exposure to variable returns. Exposure to variable returns. And finally, you should be having a link between power and variable returns. Okay. Look at the definition of control. कहीं पर भी more than 50% stake लिखा है? नहीं. Is there anywhere in the definition written that when you hold more than 50% stake, only then you will have control? Answer is no. It's not the case. Okay. It is a very, very beautiful definition, a very beautifully worded definition. Control means the power to direct relevant activities. The power to direct the relevant activities. So relevant activities means what? Relevant activities means the core processes, the revenue generating activities. If you are able to direct this, then the first part is fulfilled. The first part is fulfilled. When I talk about exposure to variable returns, exposure to variable returns means nothing but exposure to profits. Exposure to profits. If you have acquired a company, you will be exposed to the profits also as well as the loss also. These are variable returns. When you acquire shares or when you acquire a company, आपको क्या मालूम? You have not acquired a bond. You have not made a fixed deposit जहां पे आपका return is fixed. What you have acquired is a business whose returns or profits will change with the passage of time. You cannot predict it. And since you have invested, you are going to be exposed to those variable returns. So variable returns could be a positive figure also, could be a negative figure also, could be positive, could be negative, but you as the acquirer are going to get exposed to such variable returns. And finally, there should be a link between the power and the variable returns. In other words, you should be in the ability to use the power to affect the variable returns. You should be in a position to use your power to affect the variable returns, Have you understood this definition? For example, let us now look at each and every item individually. When you talk about power, sir, when you talk about power, what do you mean? What do you mean by power? Power again has three parts to it. Derived from existing rights that give a current ability to direct the relevant activities. So this is the meaning of power. Existing rights should be there. These rights should give a current ability for what? For directing the relevant activities. Okay. Now, please pay attention. Let us understand what we mean by existing rights with the help of certain examples. You will be clear. Okay. You know this company, Kingfisher Airlines. Okay, you know this company, Kingfisher Airlines. Now, Kingfisher Airlines was a very what you can say, a very popular airline about a decade ago. One of the most fabulous airlines that was in the skies a decade ago, and it was the choice of all the elite class to fly in Kingfisher Airlines because of what they provided. Okay, but Kingfisher Airlines debt started rising, and ultimately it came to a point where Kingfisher Airlines revenues could no longer start servicing the debt. Okay, this was basically in the what you can say, in the era of introduction of SpiceJet, Indigo, etc. These guys took over the low-cost business in such a manner that Kingfisher Airlines could not compete. India is a very tough market for the aviation sector. Anyways, that is a separate matter of discussion. Kingfisher Airlines was neck deep in debt when it just fell apart. So therefore, Kingfisher Airlines fell under the control of the bankers, SBI. okay, which was the primary lender. I think this was SBI only, I'm not sure, but it was a consortium. Okay, SBI, Punjab National Bank, Canara Bank, HDFC Bank, all these people put together and gave a humongous amount of debt to Kingfisher, which was not serviced and which till date is not serviced. And therefore, SBI acquired the control over Kingfisher Airlines. SBI acquired control. Okay. The same is the story with Jet Airways also. Okay. I'm not sure who is the banker, but this was the case with Jet Airways also. Now Jet Airways went under what you can say, the IBC process. Buyers were identified, etc., etc., and now probably Jet Airways will start to see the skies soon. Okay. Now the question is, please understand, SBI acquiring control over Kingfisher Airlines, does it mean SBI acquired a business? Okay, this is one question. Okay, now we come to the second question. Okay, second scenario. SpiceJet. SpiceJet, when it was initially introduced, it was owned by a political family of India, the Dayanidhi Maran family based in Tamil Nadu. Okay. SpiceJet also had same issues. Okay. Debt tha, it could not service it. It was performing very badly. So Dayanidhi Maran felt that he had to give up his stake. So ultimately, the current owner, that is Mr. Ajay Singh, he acquired SpiceJet from Dayanidhi Maran by paying 1 rupee and acquiring all the debt, everything that SpiceJet was sunk in. And Ajay Singh today is the owner of SpiceJet. In this case, can you say that Mr. Ajay Singh acquired a business? Story is the same. Story is exactly the same. Kingfisher Airlines band ho gaya. It was acquired by SBI. Okay. Means SBI will direct certain things. Okay. SpiceJet was earlier owned by Dayanidhi Maran, and because he could not run the airline effectively, he transferred a business to Mr. Ajay Singh. My question is, did SBI acquire a business? If yes, why? If no, why? The second question is, did Ajay Singh acquire a business? If yes, why? If no, why? Soch samajh ke, think and answer. Think and answer very carefully. Very carefully you think and answer based on the definition of power. Think and answer. What is the factor that is different in both the cases? What is the factor that is different in both the cases? Come on, think. I already got an answer from Srishti. In the first case, there is no business acquisition. In the second case, there is a business acquisition. I want you guys to now think. I hope the examples are clear. Soham, Nidhi, Shailendra, Anuj Sharma, Gopi, Sumit, Shailendra, Saraswati, Ankur, Nidhi, Rahul Patel. Yes. Aniket Jain is saying directing activities. Kingfisher is not a business acquisition because it is not derived from existing rights. SBI, no, because the control is acquired for the purpose of recovery. Okay. You guys are putting in your best answers, I can see, and most of you are giving correct. Yes. Kaushiki is saying second case is a business combination. Soham also said all three conditions satisfied of business, but SBI will not do any business, won't liquidate. Whereas the second case, there is an intent to do the business. Okay. Most of you are right. I mean, all of you are right. But where is the answer? In the first case, SBI got control over Kingfisher. Yes, SBI got control over Kingfisher. But does SBI want to run an airline? Does SBI want to run an airline? Kingfisher had inputs at that point of time. Aircraft tha, procedures the, manual tha, staff tha. It had an ability to generate revenue if it had to plan the operations, and it had processes in place. So Kingfisher was very much a business. But when SBI got control over Kingfisher, it was not for the purpose of directing relevant activities. Relevant activities kya tha? Relevant activities is the revenue generating core operating process. Do you think the then chairman of SBI, I think she was Arundhati Bhattacharya, but I'm not sure. The then chairman of SBI, do you think she would leave the banking business in which she was an expert and move to run an airline in which she has no expertise? Answer is no. In the first case, they got the power, but that power was not to direct the relevant activities. Somebody gave the answer that it was more to protect their interest, which is the true answer. The true answer is SBI got control on account of its own protective rights. On account of its own protective rights. भाई SBI ने जब कंपनी पे control acquire किया, that was to safeguard the loan amount that it has given, जिसके लिए अभी भी कोर्ट में केस चल रहा है. Yes, for which the court is still fighting. I mean, India is still fighting in the courts of London for that. But ultimately, SBI got control not to run an airline, but it got control to protect its position as the holder. In many cases, जब भी ऐसे loan arrangements होते हैं, you will typically be having clauses by the lender bank, like dividend cannot be given without the bank permission. No new line of business should be started without the bank acquisition. No acquisitions can be made without the bank's intimation. Fresh issue can be made only after informing the bank. In all these cases, do you think the bank is directing the company's relevant activities? Answer is no, it isn't. In all these cases, there is a risk that the bank's stake in the company in the form of loan advanced, there is a risk that the loan advanced may not be repaid back. And for that purpose alone, the loan agreements give certain rights to the lenders. It gives certain rights to the lenders. So these rights are not for the purpose of directing the relevant activities. You cannot say, sir, SBI is going to decide which target should I acquire or not. तो मेरा तो control है ही नहीं. अरे ऐसा नहीं है. SBI will decide because it is having a stake in the company in the form of a loan that is advanced to the company. So these rights are solely protective in nature. Which nature? They are protective in nature. It protects the interests of State Bank of India. In the case of SBI, it protected the stake of SBI when it acquired control over Kingfisher. And that is why it cannot be regarded as a business combination. Hey, it is a business, agreed. But the power that SBI has is not to run the airline. Agar hota to aaj Kingfisher hawa mein hota, right? It would be flying today. But that is not the case. Right now, SBI got only because it has to protect its interest. And that is the reason why you are not going to say that in the first case, there is a business combination. Nahi hoga, because SBI does not have the power to direct the relevant activities. So ye ho gaya pehla scenario. Second case, when the Maran family gave up his stake for 1 rupee to Mr. Ajay Singh. It's not 1 rupee technically. The crores of debt burden which was there on the Maran family came to Mr. Ajay Singh. In this case, Ajay Singh acquired SpiceJet. Agreed. But when it acquired SpiceJet, the intent was not to protect the rights of Ajay Singh. Uska koi right tha hi nahi. He had not given anything to SpiceJet. His intention was to direct the relevant activities of SpiceJet, which he is doing even today. As chairman of SpiceJet, he is the one who is responsible for all the strategic decisions that SpiceJet is making with regard to acquisition of aircraft, with regard to flying on new routes, closing existing routes. All these decisions are taken by keeping Mr. Ajay Singh informed about it. So in the second case, there is an intent to direct the relevant activities, which is the core processes or core activities of SpiceJet, which is essentially running the airline. In the first case, it was merely a protective power. It was not an absolute power. So it was protective rights in the first case, and it was substantive rights in the second case. Okay. So in the first case, SBI had protective rights. In the second case, Ajay Singh has substantive rights over the airline. Have you guys understood? Yes. तो जब control की बात करते हैं, which rights are you going to look at? Are you going to look at protective rights, or are you going to look at substantive rights? Which rights are you going to look at? Kaushiki cleared, Sindhwani clear. That's right, Sumit. Yes, gave birth to IBC. That's right. Yes, so Sumit Jain is also right in his answer. Kaushiki was right. Have you understood? So that's right. Srishti is saying substantive. Soham is saying substantive. Kaushiki is saying substantive. Good. Nidhi, Rahul Patel, Aniket Jain, Shailendra. Are you guys there? Gopi. Are you following? Anuj Sharma. Yes. Are you guys following? Okay. तो ये हो गया हमारा substantive rights. Okay. So when I talk about existing rights, okay, it is going to be divided into two types: substantive and protective. Substantive and protective. Substantive and protective. Okay, just give me a minute, please. Okay. What do you mean by substantive rights? This was the case what Ajay Singh had. Okay. So rights where holder has practical ability to exercise. Okay. Considered in assessment of control. You can make a note of this, these two definitions. Control is what I am discussing. Then below control, power is what we are discussing now. Okay. Whereas protective rights, which give holder protection without giving power to direct relevant activities. So there is no power to direct relevant activities. So will you consider the existence of protective rights in control? Answer is no. Ignored in assessment of control. कंट्रोल है कि नहीं है, आप कौन सा राइट देखोगे? यू विल ऑलवेज लुक एट substantive rights. You will always look at substantive rights, not at protective rights. Okay. So this is considered, this is ignored. Okay. Note it down. All clear, guys? Is everything clear so far? Yes. Okay. Done. All right. Okay. So noted down, done. Kaushiki has confirmed. Yes. Okay. So ye ho gaya. I just rub this part. Let us move on to the next one. Okay. Okay. Should I take Reliance? Okay, fine. Now this I'm just making it up. Okay. Tomorrow, when Jio gets listed, okay, when Jio gets listed, Reliance Industries is the parent of Jio. But when Jio starts getting listed, there will be substantial divestment by Reliance in its stake. Okay, there could be substantial divestment. Okay, that means it would probably give up some of its investment in Reliance Jio so that the public can also be a part of the entity. So now it may so happen that Reliance's share in Jio will fall below 50%. Will fall below 50%. Reliance Jio's shares would be held by institutional investors. Institutional investors. Jesse, right now we are having Facebook, which is having an investment in Jio. You're having Google, which is having an investment in Jio. Okay, so you're having these 2-3 institutional investors who have invested in Jio platforms. So they make, let us assume, about 20 to 30% of stake. And let us put this at 45%. Okay, this I'm just making it up so that we can understand. And the remaining 45, 30, 75, 25%. Okay. I'm just rubbing this off. Let us keep it 30. Held by lakhs of individual investors. Held by lakhs of individual investors. Each of them holding not more than 1% stake in Jio. Okay. So this is the shareholding pattern of Jio platforms. Okay. Reliance is holding 45% in Jio. Institutional investors would end up holding 30%, and the remaining 25% would be held by individual investors, each of them holding not more than 1% stake in Jio. Okay, so now my question is, I have two questions before you. First one, is there an entity which controls Jio? Or the second question is, Jio is without any control. Jio is without any control by virtue of its shareholding. Look at the definition of control. Look at the definition of control and give me your answer. कंट्रोल का डेफिनेशन ये है, पावर टू डायरेक्ट एक्टिविटीज, एक्सपोजर टू वेरिएबल रिटर्न्स, लिंक बिटवीन पावर एंड वेरिएबल रिटर्न्स. So look at this and give me your answer. Is there a controlling shareholder? If yes, who is it? Or does Reliance control Jio, or nobody controls Jio? What do you think? Control is by Reliance Industries. Sumit is saying control is by Reliance. This is a hypothetical example. Right now, more than 50% is held by Jio. Aniket Jain is saying nobody controls. Good. I'm glad I got one different answer. Yes. Reliance institutional investors control. Shareholding doesn't matter in Ind AS. Okay. Anybody else? Controls Jio by virtue of relevant activities. Okay. Look at the definition of control. Nowhere percentage is written. So percentage to bhul jaiye. You forget. Control talks about power. The power to direct relevant activities. Which activities? Relevant activities. Relevant activities. Acha. In the case of a company, bhai power kahan se aata hai? Power comes from where? Sir, the power, what you can say, the power place is the board of directors. The power seat, the seat of power is with the board of directors. Board of directors पे कौन बैठता है? Sir, board of directors पे वो बैठता है जो shareholders vote करते हैं. The people who are appointed to the board of directors are based on the voting that is carried out by the shareholders. You would be aware of Companies Act provisions. I'm not a great expert in Companies Act, but मेरे को इतना पता है, shareholders appoint the directors. Shareholders appoint the directors in a general meeting. In a general meeting, AGM, EGM, कुछ भी हो. In the AGM or EGM that happens, how do you calculate the percentage? The percentage is calculated based on the members present and voting. The members present and voting. So just imagine a setup where we have to decide who will be the board of directors of Jio, and we need to call in the shareholders. कौन कौन आएगा? अंबानी फैमिली का पूरा खानदान बैठेगा AGM पे, because they are the ones who are holding the shares. And you will have institutional investors like LIC, Facebook, etc., जो भी है. Do you think that all the lakhs of investors will come and attend the general meeting? Do you think that the lakhs of investors, even if they come and attend the general meeting, do you think we can get a huge consensus in a way that 25% of the individual investors and 30% of institutional investors, can they join hands together and overpower Reliance Industries in deciding who will be the board of directors? Answer is no. It is highly impractical. लाखों लोग हैं, कहां से आएंगे? इंडिया है, कोई नहीं आएगा. ओके, इंडिया में शेयर होल्डर इज ओनली फॉर वन पर्पस, भाई मेरे को डिविडेंड कितना मिलता है. इफ यू लुक एट अ नॉर्मल शेयर होल्डर, आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट प्रोफेशनल ट्रेडर्स, ऑल दोस काइंड. ओके, शेयर होल्डर विल जस्ट हैव अ शेयर बिकॉज डिविडेंड मिलता है, दैट्स इट. ओके, वो ना तो वोट करेगा, ना तो जनरल मीटिंग अटेंड करेगा. एनुअल रिपोर्ट में आता है तो उसका सिर्फ एक ही काम है, डिविडेंड डिक्लेयर्ड कितना दे, बस उतना ही देखेगा. उसके अलावा उसके लाइफ में एज फार एज रिलायंस इज कंसर्न कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं रहता है. सो दीज इंडिविजुअल इन्वेस्टर्स कम इन दैट कैटेगरी. दे विल नॉट कम फॉर अटेंडिंग द जनरल मीटिंग. तो बचे कौन? इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टर्स एंड रिलायंस जियो. सो वी आर हैविंग अ 45%, 30% stakeholding who is sitting in the general meeting. Who do you think will be appointed? Sir, obviously numbers dekhenge to the entity Reliance Jio is what is going to decide who will be the board of directors on Jio. The entity Reliance Industries will ultimately decide who will be the board of directors of Jio. And once Reliance Industries appoints its directors, who do you think the directors will listen to? They will obviously listen to Reliance Industries Limited. And therefore, even though the holding is less than 50%, do you think Reliance Industries controls Jio? Answer is yes, it does. Sir, but holding तो 50% नहीं, तो क्या हो गया? Holding 50% नहीं है, तो if you look at Ind AS, the definition of control, what they want is power. They are not saying voting power. They are saying power to direct relevant activities. And power comes from where? Power comes from existing rights that give a current ability to direct the relevant activities. We'll come about to discuss about current ability in a short while. But right now, what are we looking at? We are looking at whether there is a power to direct the relevant activities. Is the power existing with Reliance Industries? Yes. But sir, वो तो 50%, 50% तो voting power है. Voting power more than 50%, I am not interested, because that is only going to give you a percentage in the dividend. As compared to the other shareholders, you are the shareholder who is in a position to exercise your power and appoint a person of your choice to the board of directors, who in the future will carry on activities in Jio platforms based on how Reliance Industries wants. In other words, Reliance Industries controls the relevant activities of Jio platforms through the board of directors, which it has appointed in the general meeting, by virtue of the high power, the high voting power that it has as compared to the institutional investors or the very small shareholders. And by virtue of this power, we can say that Reliance Industries controls Reliance Jio, even though its stake in Jio is less than 50%. And therefore, Reliance Jio continues to be a subsidiary of Reliance Industries, even though the stake is less than 50%, which was not the case under AS 21, which required mandatory holding to exceed 50% in order to consolidate a subsidiary in your financial statements. Is it okay? Yes. Is the case totally clear? Yes. Is the case totally clear, or is there any doubt still? Is there any doubt still? Okay. Do you have any doubts, or is the case clear? Srishti confirmed, Aniket Jain confirmed, Soham, Sumit, Kaushiki, Anuj Sharma. Have you guys understood? Nidhi Deshpande, Rahul Patel, Gopi, all clear? Yes. Okay, Ankur also has confirmed. Okay, fine. तो परसेंटेज पे मत जाइए. Don't go on percentage. What you have to look at is whether you actually have the ability, whether you currently have the power to direct the relevant activity. Whether you have power to direct the relevant activities. Okay. Okay, I'll just remove this percentage signs. 45 shares, 30 shares, and 25 shares. Okay. We are keeping it as simple as possible. Okay. 45 shares, 30 shares, 25 shares. Okay. Now, there is a debenture holder. There is a debenture holder. Which type of debentures? Convertible debentures. Which type of debentures? Convertible debentures. कितने debentures है इसके पास? Well, he is having 100 debentures. Okay. Each of these debentures is convertible into one equity share. Okay. So that means it is convertible to 100 equity shares. It is convertible to 100 equity shares, and these shares are convertible at the option of the holder. Okay, convertible debenture holder, conversion at the option of the holder. At the option of the holder. ये कहानी है. In Reliance Jio, we have a debenture holder who holds convertible debentures of the quantity 100, which are convertible to 100 equity shares at the option of the holder, not at the option of the issuer, at the option of the holder. Okay. Now, you tell me, अभी आपने फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स पढ़ा है. You have studied financial instruments already. Now you tell me, I don't want the right answer. I just want the answer right now to tell me, position same hai abhi bhi, or do you think Reliance Industries control has become shaky because of the presence of this convertible debenture holder? Do you think the position of Reliance Industries as a control over Reliance Jio is shaky? Let us make it 1000 debentures. Okay, we'll keep it simple because I don't want any other confusions to come. Is it shaky? Yes. भाई अब तो shaky है. Why is it shaky? Holder कभी भी convert कर सकता है. Holder can convert it to equity at any point of time. So therefore, Reliance Industry का जो position है, it is slightly uncertain. It is slightly uncertain. थोड़ा सा problem है Reliance को. Okay. Let us assume that conversion happens after 5 years. First 5 years, you are not permitted to convert. Conversion जो भी होगा, you can exercise it after 5 years. Second case is immediate conversion allowed. Immediate conversion allowed. So in the two cases, I want you to answer, is Reliance position the same or is it shaky in which of the scenarios? It is shaky in which of the scenarios? shaky in the second scenario. First scenario also it is shaky, but the uncertainty arises after 5 years. First 5 years, no doubt, Reliance controls Jio. The moment 5 years period is crossed, this fellow, the debenture holder, can exercise the option to convert, and therefore, after 5 years, the control starts getting uncertain. Whereas in the second case, if it can be exercised any point of time, including immediate conversion, then Reliance Industries will certainly be uncertain about its control. Okay, so here the case is first 5 years Reliance Industries Limited. After that, uncertain. In this case, uncertain. In this case, uncertain. Okay. So therefore, can I say that in this case, current ability exists? Yes, current ability exists. And therefore, the control of Reliance over Reliance Industries is not certain. Whereas in this case, there is no current ability. No current ability exists. तो अगर हमें कंट्रोल देखना है, if we have to look at power का definition, it is the power to direct relevant activities. Power comes from existing rights which give a current ability. The debenture holder is having a current ability to convert 1000 debentures into 1000 shares. उसके पास आज के तारीख में वो right है, and because it has that right, ultimately the power of Reliance Industries over Jio is not certain. And that is the meaning of current ability. Okay. आज के आज check करो whether you are having an ability to exercise the control. Okay. Whether you are having an ability to exercise the control. Current ability hai, then in this case, there is no likelihood of control by Reliance Industries. Okay. Whereas in the first case, 5 saal baad the ability arises. So right now you can definitely say that right now it is my control. Reliance will tell. Is it okay? Yes. Have you guys understood? So we are talking about current ability that we will have to decide for the purpose of assessing the control. Okay. So this is how it is. In the first case, Soham, forget debenture holders. In the first case, 45, 30 and 25. Do you think anybody has more than 50% stake? No. And that is why under AS 28, would Reliance Industries consolidate Reliance Jio? Answer is no, because the holding was less than 50%. But under Ind AS, even though the holding is less than 50%, Reliance will still continue to consolidate because Reliance Industries controls Jio. Even though its holding is less than 50%. That is why, if you remember your AS 21, the balance, you would place it under an account known as minority interest. Okay. You would have minority interest. Okay. In the case of Ind AS, there is no concept of minority interest because it is possible that a majority may be there, but because of the extent of control that you are having, you still continue to remain the shareholder, controlling shareholder, and that is why we use the term non-controlling interest under Ind AS. माइनॉरिटी इंटरेस्ट हम नहीं बोलेंगे, बिकॉज इन दिस केस माइनॉरिटी शेयर होल्डर इज 45% रिलायंस, वो भी माइनॉरिटी में ही है. Institutional also 30%, 25% with others, so 55% is with outsiders. So वो minority नहीं होगा, but because they are unable to come together on the same page every time, it is always Reliance Industries which will have control, and therefore it will consolidate with its 45% stake. The remaining 55% will be parked under non-controlling interest, not as minority interest. We'll come to that later. Okay. Sir, in after 5 years, I have written no current ability exists, not liability, no current ability. करंट एबिलिटी नहीं है यहां पे. ओके, एबिलिटी कम्स आफ्टर 5 years. सो आफ्टर 5 years कंट्रोल is going to first 5 years it is with Reliance. After that it will be uncertain because the debenture holder has the right to exercise the conversion option. Okay, immediate conversion allowed, it is uncertain right from day one, and therefore current ability exists with the debenture holder, exists with the debenture holder. Is it okay? Soham, are you convinced about the difference? Are you convinced about the difference? Yes. All right. Okay. See, ultimately it boils down to holding. In a sense, yes, but I'm not saying 50% holding is needed. Not at all required. Not at all required. Okay. अभी तो holding दिखता ही नहीं है. You are not concerned with the holding right now. Relative holdings, yes, but absolute holdings we are not going to be concerned. तो ये हो गया मेरा current ability. Okay, so substantive rights is done. We have to consider protective rights. We have to ignore current ability. We have discussed current ability. We have discussed. Okay, and then we move on to practical ability. Practical ability to exercise. Practical ability to exercise. Okay, now this is the last part we will see when we are assessing the control. Okay. Okay. See, this debenture holder has the option to convert 1000 debentures to 1000 equity shares. He has the current ability. Okay. Current ability है उसके पास. Okay. Now, let us look at a case where I'm just taking that example only. I'm just taking that example only. Okay. Market price of Reliance Industries, sorry, Jio's shares is equal to rupees 2000. Conversion price is equal to rupees 50,000. Okay, means today's date the market price of Jio's share is rupees 2000, whereas with the option that the holder has to convert his debenture into shares, the conversion price is rupees 50,000 per share. The conversion price is rupees 50,000 per share. Now, as a prudent person, you tell me, does the debenture holder have the ability, have current ability to exercise? Yes. But does the owner of the debenture holders have a practical ability to exercise? Does he have a practical ability to exercise? Come on, tell me. Does he have a practical ability to exercise? नहीं है. अरे वो अपना एक एक डिबेंचर देगा, उसको बदले में कितना देना पड़ेगा? He has to give 50,000 to get a share. He has to give 50,000 to get a share. Do you think it is practical to exercise? Absolutely not. It's not practical to exercise. And therefore, what do we say? We say that this option is deeply out of the money. We say that this option is deeply out of the money. Do you know the terms in the money, out of the money, at the money option? Yes, I hope you know these terms. The option in this case is deeply out of the money, deeply out of the money. So can I say that though I am having a practical ability, though I am having a practical ability to exercise, sorry, though I am having a current ability to exercise, I currently do not have a practical ability because the option is deeply out of the money, is deeply out of the money. Okay, so we can say that deeply out of money, deeply out of the money. So conversion unlikely. That is rights not substantive. So if that is the case, who continues to be the controlling person? Reliance will continue to be the controlling person. Okay, Reliance will continue to be the controlling entity, not this debenture holder. However, in other cases, what you will have to, what could be the other cases? It could be in the money option, or it could be at the money option, or it could be slightly out of the money, slightly out of the money, slightly out of the money. If that is the case, then conversion likely. Therefore, rights substantive. Therefore, rights are substantive. For example, market price is 2000, conversion price is 1900. ले लो, conversion price is 2000. ले लोगे, conversion price is 2100. ले सकते हो. See, ultimately, the controlling, the debenture holder is going to exercise control on account of the huge inflow of what you can say converted debentures to equity shares. So therefore, he will not mind paying a small premium also, since he is getting control over Geo platforms. And therefore, even though it is slightly out of the money, you will be treating it as conversion likely to happen, and hence the rights are substantive. Hence the rights are substantive. Okay, so you are going to look at in the money options, at the money options, even slightly out of the money. Okay, even slightly out of the money options. Is it okay? Yes. All clear? Okay. When I talk about economic impact, what will be the economic impact of the business combination? Well, you will ask the question, is it going to be favorable? For example, synergies. Synergies. Okay. Then in that case, conversion is likely to happen. That is, rights are substantive. if it is adverse. Example, loss of key managerial personnel. If that is the case, then conversion unlikely, as rights are not substantive. So these are the two things which you will have to look at. These are the two things which you will have to look at. Acha. Yes, you will have to look at the conditions of each contract. Surprisingly, this was not there in your accounting standard. Okay, to look at convertible debentures or not. Okay. Okay, note this down. Done. Okay, Kaushiki has confirmed. What about the others? Noted. Anuj Sharma clear. Soham, Kaushiki clear. Yes, Aniket Jain has cleared. Sumit Jain, आपको समझा? Yes, all clear, good to go. Okay, noted, done, and all right. Okay, for examination only, typically just stick to 50% criteria. 50% से ज्यादा shareholding है, you are having control unless otherwise mentioned. नहीं नहीं, थोड़े से है, थोड़े से गए होंगे, क्या पता ब्रेक पे. ओके, सो यू कैन जस्ट राइट फॉर exam perspective, comma, if nothing is given, comma, power, that is control, is deemed to exist at a stake greater than 50%. At a stake greater than 50%. Simple, sir. Understanding. Okay. Stake. Okay. Existing rights वाला किधर गया है? This is point A. This is B. Current ability के बारे में what did we discuss? These are the rights which should be exercisable by the investor before the decision on relevant activities can be taken. Held by investor before the decision on relevant activities can be taken. Before the decision on relevant activities can be taken. We have seen that 5 years example. Okay. If the optionally convertible debenture option can be exercised only after 5 years, that means you do not have a current option, a current ability. Example, option exercisable after 5 years. Exercisable after 5 years gives ability only after 5 years. Only after 5 years. Not now. See, to direct relevant activities. So this is operating plus financing activities that affect significantly the returns of the company. That affect the returns of the company. Okay. Have you noted down? So we have discussed business, we have discussed control. हे भगवान, आज क्या सोचा था, क्या क्या खत्म करेंगे. Done? Okay. We take a 5-minute break. It's 9:02. We meet at 9:07. Okay. Take a quick 5-minute break. After that, I think we'll be discussing exclusions from Ind AS 103, which is quite simple, in fact. And then we shall move on to looking at some questions or not. I don't think we have the time, but we'll check. Okay. All right. Fine. We'll have a look at the exclusions and then we shall proceed further. Not off track. I tend to go a bit slow, but I hope you guys are understanding. Okay. All right. Fine. Nisarg, 5 minutes break. Okay. All right. So welcome back. So we discussed what is business, what is control. Uh, when we spoke about business, there are three things that we will have to look into. That is inputs, processes, and outputs. When we talk about control, it is basically the power it is basically the power that we spoke about to direct the relevant activities, exposure to variable returns, and a link between the power and variable returns. Okay. You should be basically having the ability to use the power to affect the variable returns. Only then it means that you have control. So basically control is power plus exposure to variable returns plus the ability to use that power to affect the variable returns. So that is the meaning of control. When we spoke about power, power is derived from what? It is derived from existing rights which give a current ability to direct the relevant activities. And when we talk about existing rights, we will only consider substantive rights. We will not consider the protective rights. Okay, we will not consider the protective rights. When you talk about existing rights, they should be considered only if they are substantive. We discussed that. Power is again focusing on a current ability. So when you talk about current ability, as on date, you are assessing whether control exists, not for some event like a conversion of optionally convertible debentures 5 years down the line. That will not be decided in assessment of control today. We will have to look at whether any current ability exists or not. Okay. When we move on to the practical ability to exercise, we will look at conversion price. If it is in the money or at the money or even slightly out of the money, the conversion is likely to happen and the rights would be regarded as substantive. Deeply out of the money, conversion is unlikely. Economic impact, if it's favorable on account of conversion, likely to be exercised. If it is adverse, then conversion is unlikely to be exercised. Okay, so these are some indicators. Again, this is not a thumb rule. These are some obvious indicators for the purposes of combination, as for the purpose of identifying whether control exists or not. Okay, so with that, let us move on to the next part, that is exclusions. Okay, scope exclusions. Okay. Very obvious and very simple scope exclusions. Okay, you can write down. First one, asset purchases. Asset purchases that do not constitute a business, including group asset purchases. Okay, including group asset purchases. So it is obvious. अरे भाई, जब बिजनेस कॉम्बिनेशन की बात हो रही है तो आप एसेट परचेज को बिजनेस नहीं माना जाएगा ना. वी आर नॉट अ बिजनेस, वी आर परचेजिंग एन एसेट, वी आर परचेजिंग एन एसेट. ओके, सो the key differences are as under. Are you guys there after the break? Yes, are you guys there post the break? Is the session interesting? Okay. Okay. Key differences are as under. Okay. Okay. We'll write this later. As of now, just understand the concept. As of now, just understand the concept. You will be able to follow in a very normal, simple manner. Okay. Let us assume two scenarios. First case, second case. You are acquiring land, building, plant and machinery, furniture. This is acquired for 80, 60, 40, 20 lakhs. So this comes to 200 lakhs. Am I right? 80, 60, 140, 40, 180, 200 lakhs. Okay. Same thing is there here. Okay. These are two independent cases. These are two independent cases. In the first case, we assume that it is a business. We assume that what we are acquiring is a business. That means we are acquiring inputs, processes, output, all of that is done. We are getting control, blah, blah, blah. All of that is done. So therefore, in the first case, it is a business. In the second case, we assume that it is not a business, but it is a group of assets. But it is a group of assets that we are acquiring, Now, you would suppose purchase consideration in this case is 240 lakhs. Both the cases, it is 240 lakhs. Now, I want you to think these are the fair values. Okay. These are the fair values of land, building, plant, furniture, etc. Okay, so 80, 60, 40, 20, 200, and you are purchasing it for 240 lakhs. In case one, it is a business that you are acquiring. In case two, it is merely assets which you are acquiring. So now, what will be the journal entry? In this case, I will have land, building, plant and machinery, furniture and fixtures to bank. Sir, bank mein to 240 lakhs has gone. Land, building 80, 60, 40, 20. Sir, we are left with a balancing figure of 40 lakhs. Sir, goodwill hoga ye? This is asset acquisition. Am I correct in recognizing the goodwill under case 2 of 40 lakhs, or is it incorrect? Second case is what? Second case is it is an asset acquisition. It's not a business. So now I want you to tell me, dhyan se, is it correct to recognize this goodwill, or is it wrong to recognize this goodwill? No. Kaushiki is saying no. Typically, it should go to the P&L, but that was because I gave you the example there in that Mauritius example that you want to incorporate an entity, and because of that reason, you have done the overpayment of 100 rupees. And that is why it went to the P&L as incorporation expenses. That was the case of that Mauritius wala. But in this case, मैंने कोई कहानी नहीं दिया है, कोई बैकग्राउंड नहीं दिया है. I have given nothing. So what Ind AS tells us? Remember, have you studied Ind AS 16? Yes, that deals with acquisition of assets, okay, property, plant and equipment. Ind AS 16 tells us you will have to record the asset at the cost at which it was purchased. You have to recognize it at the cost at which it was purchased. Sir, cost is 240 lakhs. So Ind AS 16 tells us, I am not giving the background I gave for the Mauritius company. Okay, ये कोई background नहीं है, आप सिर्फ asset purchase कर रहे हैं, that's it. Okay, you are purchasing the assets for 240 lakhs. What Ind AS 16 tells us is you will have to allocate this 240 lakhs to these assets in the ratio of their fair values. You will have to allocate these cost price of 240 lakhs. You will have to allocate it to these assets in the ratio of their fair values. Okay, so ratio of fair value means 8:6:4:2. So we allocate 240 divided by 200, okay, into 80:60:40:20. So this comes to how much? This comes to 96 lakhs. This comes to 60 into 72 lakhs. This comes to 48 lakhs. And this comes to 24 lakhs. So this is the journal entry that you are going to pass. $240. But sir, and no goodwill, no P&L, nothing is going to come here because मैंने substance के लिए कोई कहानी बनाया नहीं जैसे Mauritius के लिए बनाया था. I did not give up any story the way we made it for Mauritius. This is a plain simple asset acquisition. But sir, you will have a doubt right now. Sir, fair value तो 80:60:40:20 है, correct? Sir, you are recording at a different value 96:72:48:24. Sir, how can it be true and fair? True and fair कैसे नहीं है? You are paying 240 lakhs. First point. Second point, what you are acquiring is not a business. What you are acquiring is assets. That means you have overpaid for these assets by acquiring them. That means for you, the value of these assets is certainly not the fair value. It is a value which is higher than the fair value by 20%. Okay, so therefore you will record these assets at the purchase price by allocating the purchase consideration to the individual assets in the ratio of their fair values. This is what Ind AS 16 tells you. This is what Ind AS 16 tells you. But coming to Ind AS 103, the entry goes something like this. Land, building, plant and machinery, furniture and fixtures to bank. भाई मैंने 240 lakhs pay किया. In return, I got assets worth 80, 60, 40, 20. So I have made an excess payment of 40 lakhs. Sir, this excess payment, can I divide it in this ratio? No. What you have acquired is not assets. What you have acquired is a business. And because you have acquired a business, whatever extra you've paid over the net assets, okay, that will go and sit under goodwill. That will go and sit under goodwill. So I think most of you, all of you gave the answer that in the first case, you will have a goodwill of 40 lakhs. All of you are correct. In the second case, all of you said that goodwill should not be recognized. That is also correct. Okay, that is also correct. I changed the facts from the Mauritius case to not give any background to this, and therefore we will allocate the purchase consideration to the assets acquired in the second scenario in the ratio of the fair value of these assets. Is it understood? Is it understood? Yes. Have you understood? Any doubts, guys? Any doubts? Okay. Next one is transaction costs. Transaction cost. ध्यान से सुनो, this is very interesting. Okay, just be careful and understand. This is now going to start getting interesting, more and more interesting. Okay. I acquired a business. Okay. I acquired a business. Pursuant to the acquisition of the business, land had to be transferred from the target company to the acquiring company. Okay. Land jo tha, building jo tha, that had to be transferred from the target company to the acquiring company. ठीक है. Because I had to do the transfer of land, I had to incur stamp duty as the acquirer. The stamp duty value is 10 lakh rupees. Okay, is 10 lakh rupees for land. Okay, building वगैरह छोड़ दो. The stamp duty charges is 10 lakh rupees for land. Now I want you to tell me what will be the journal entry for the stamp duty charges paid in the case of asset acquisition. Will I capitalize the stamp duty paid or will I expense out the stamp duty paid? Will I capitalize or will I expense it out? This is in terms of Ind AS 16, Ind AS 38, Ind AS 40, Ind AS. Okay. What would you do? Stamp duty paid in an asset acquisition. Would you take it to the P&L or would you capitalize? Yes, Kaushiki, Srishti are answering. You will be capitalizing it, which is right. So you would take land account debit to bank and you would capitalize it at 10 lakhs. You would capitalize it at 10 lakhs. Fair enough. No problem. But what will you do under Ind AS 103? You remember under AS 14, ऐसे transaction cost होते थे, right? There used to be something known as transaction cost. What do you do in transaction cost under AS 14? Are you able to recollect something? ट्रांजैक्शन कॉस्ट का हम लोग क्या करते थे AS 14 में? डू यू गाइज रिकलेक्ट? Stamp duty, etc. What we used to do under AS 14? Yes. Come on, give me answers. Is it charged to P&L or would it have been charged to goodwill? Just recollect, please. Somewhere it's been quite some time. Yes, it used to be adjusted in goodwill. It used to be adjusted in goodwill. If you remember, transaction cost under AS 14, this is what I remember, you used to add it to goodwill. you used to add it to goodwill. Okay, amalgamating company, the purchaser would pay, the recipient would pay, the acquiring company would pay, because it is acquiring the entity, and ultimately you would add it to the goodwill. Look at how Ind AS interprets it. Look at how Ind AS interprets it. Okay, Ind AS tells land, building, plant and machinery, furniture and fixtures to bank. Look at how Ind AS interprets. Okay, that is why it's a beautiful concept. Okay, आपने लैंड लिया 80 lakhs, बिल्डिंग लिया 60 lakhs, plant and machinery 40, F&F 20. Okay, now you have paid 240 plus 10, 250 lakhs, which is including the stamp duty of 10 lakhs. This 10 lakhs, what do I do with this 10 lakhs? क्या करना है अपने को? Simple. This 10 lakhs ideally would go to goodwill under AS 14. But in Ind AS 103, ये जो goodwill है, this goodwill cannot be treated like any XYZ balancing figure, because this goodwill, we try to keep it as fair as possible. We try to keep it as fair as we can. Ultimately, goodwill is a representative of what is the extra that you have paid compared to the business that you are getting. By paying the transaction cost of 10 lakhs, by paying the transaction cost of 10 lakhs, your acquisition is not becoming more valuable by 10 lakhs. In AS 14, आप goodwill का value बढ़ाते थे. You used to increase the value of goodwill on the ground that this relates to acquisition, therefore you go and add it to goodwill. I will not take it to the profit and loss account. But in Ind AS 103, the standard setters are of the opinion, and rightly so, that mere transaction cost cannot make my acquisition more valuable than it actually is. When I say acquisition being more valuable than it actually is, I specifically mean the excess payment that you have made, which is coming in the form of goodwill, which is coming in the form of goodwill. आप goodwill को हाथ नहीं लगा सकते, because transaction cost is not in the nature of acquisition. It's not a part of the deal. It's just a part of a statutory compliance that you are fulfilling, and therefore these expenses should be booked to the profit and loss account. This should be booked to the profit and loss account, and therefore the goodwill will be 40 lakhs. Therefore the goodwill will be 40 lakhs. But sir, goodwill 40 lakhs ही maintain करना था. If I had to maintain the goodwill at 40 lakhs, I could have done it by capitalizing the 10 lakhs to my plant and machinery or land, no? Could you do that? Answer is no. Again, Ind AS tells us that you are acquiring a business. When you are acquiring a business, it is essential and mandatory that you take these land, building, etc. assets at their fair values only. You will not take it at fair value plus the transaction cost, which was the case in asset acquisition. In asset acquisition, the acquisition entry एक तो वो fair value पे है ही नहीं. It is based on what you pay, and what you pay will also include the transaction cost. So the transaction cost would ultimately end up getting capitalized, whereas in the case of business combinations, वैसा नहीं है. It is very clear that your assets which you are acquiring will be recorded only and only at fair value, and there is no other bias, there is no other extra figure getting added to that. उसके अलावा जो कुछ भी आप खिचड़ी पकाओगे in the form of transaction cost, in the form of additional payments, all of that will go and sit in your profit and loss account, because ultimately what do I have to protect? I have to protect two things. First one is the business that I have acquired should come in my books at the fair value. And what is the fair value definition? We saw Ind AS 113. I think I only taught you. 113 क्या बोलता है? It is the price it is the price that you would receive to transfer an asset or paid to transfer a liability in a transaction between the market participants, So I want to book this at that value. I want to book the combination at that particular value, and therefore any other amount that is likely to paint, that is likely to affect the fair value, cannot be charged to assets, neither can it be charged to goodwill. It will be booked in the profit and loss account mandatorily. It will be booked in the profit and loss account mandatorily. Okay, so therefore the transaction cost under Ind AS will be adjusted in the profit and loss account. It will neither be capitalized nor it will be taken to the goodwill. Have you understood? Yes, have you guys understood? So therefore, initial recognition, coming back to your notes, initial recognition, this would be at fair value. This would be at fair value, whereas asset purchase would happen at cost. Asset purchase would happen at cost. Transaction costs like stamp duty, brokerage, securities transaction tax, kuch bhi ho, it is a mere reflection of the transaction. It's not going to form a part of your fair value. And if you remember fair value, working, how did we arrive? We had arrived after adjusting transportation cost, but we had not considered transaction cost. Transportation cost changed the characteristic of the asset or liability in question, but transaction cost was transaction specific, which would not be included in the fair value calculation. And basis the same argument here, transaction cost cannot affect my fair value. Transaction cost cannot affect my goodwill since it is not a part of the deal that we are going through. That is why we take it to the P&L. Whereas in this case, typically it would be capitalized. It would end up getting capitalized. However, if you have read Ind AS 109, in the case of financial instruments recorded at amortized cost, we would capitalize transaction cost. But where the financial assets are measured at fair value through P&L, here the transaction costs are naturally expensed out. So that is always there. So you look at the respective standards. That's it. Okay. So goodwill, it is recorded in business purchase. Here it is not recorded. Here it is not recorded. Okay. So is it clear? Yes. Covered under Ind AS 103. This would be Ind AS 16, 38, 40, 41, 105, 109. Any of these standards. Please follow the rules mentioned in those standards. Okay. Ind AS 16, 38, 40, 41 or 109 or 105. All right. So this is the difference between a business purchase as well as an asset purchase, All right. The second exclusion is joint arrangements. Very obvious exclusions है. पता नहीं ये exclusion में ना भी होता, then also it would be obvious. But joint arrangements. Okay. So joint arrangements, why is it excluded? This is covered under Ind AS 111. Covered under Ind AS 111. For example, if you look at you had this, okay, I can take a joint arrangement in the form of a joint venture. You have this Tata Singapore Airlines Limited, which is Vistara. So basically, Tatas have a 51% stake. Singapore Airlines has a 49% stake. It appears that Tata's control by virtue of shareholding, but जो कुछ भी decision लिया जाता है, whatever decision is taken in the case of Vistara is taken by both Tata as well as Singapore Airlines. Tata alone cannot take. That is how their agreement has been drafted. And therefore, it is not a case of a unilateral control. It is a case of a joint control. Hence, it will not be covered under 103. It will be covered under Ind AS 111 that deals with joint arrangement. It is a joint venture, so it would be covered under Ind AS 28. Joint venture is a form of a joint arrangement. We'll come to that when we are doing Ind AS 111 and Ind AS 28. Have you understood so far? Yes, have you understood so far? All right, so these two things are done. Let us then move on to scope exclusions are done. All right, and we take up just one last question for you to understand. I hope I have it with me. Okay. Yeah. So it's picked up from your study module only. So there is nothing new in that. I just have to search for it. Makes it measured assets. Where did that question go? Okay, yeah. So this is illustration 1 of your study module. Okay. This I'm just going to do it for you. Okay. An entity acquires an equipment and a patent in exchange for 1,000 crores cash and land. The fair value of the land is 400 crores. The carrying amount is 100 crores. Fair value of equipment and patent are estimated to be 500 crore and 1,000 crores respectively. The equipment and patent relate to a product that has just recently been commercialized. The market is still developing. Assume no transaction costs. Tax consequences ignored. How should the transaction be accounted for? Okay. So let us just have a picture of how this transaction looks like. Okay. How a picture of this transaction looks like. I'm having an entity and a counterparty. The entity is paying cash plus land. And in return, it is getting acquires equipment and patent. Equipment and patent. Fair value of the equipment is given to you to be 500 crores and fair value of equipment 500 crore, patent is 1,000 crores. 500 crores and this is 1,000 crores. And how is he paying? He's in exchange for 1,000 crore cash plus land. The value of the land is 1,400 crores. So cash is rupees 1,000. इसके केस में कोई fair value नहीं होता है. Fair value here is 400 and book value is given. Yes, carrying value of the land is 100 crores. Okay. Carrying value is 100 crores. Okay. So this is what are the facts of the case. This is what is being paid. Now the question is, do the accounting. Okay. So very simple and easy to solve. Okay. So now if I have to do the recognition, as an asset purchase, देखो दो ही चीजें हैं. right? The market equipment has just been recently commercialized. The market for this product is still developing. Since the market is still developing, I cannot say that ability to generate output is visible. I cannot say that. And because I cannot say that, this will not be an asset. This will not be a business combination. This will be an asset acquisition. And since this is an asset acquisition, you will have to look at Ind AS 16, that is Ind AS 16 and Ind AS 38, because आपको बदले में property plant equipment मिल रहा है and you are getting a patent also. So what Ind AS 16 and 38 tell us? This is a barter transaction. This is a barter transaction. You will record the assets at the fair value of the assets given up unless the fair value of the asset acquired is more evident. That means first preference is कि भाई आप क्या दे रहे हो, that will be the cost of the asset which you are going to record. So fair value of assets given up, fair value of asset given up is equal to cash of 1000 and land of 400. So this is 1400. This is 1400. Okay. And against this, you are getting two assets. One is equipment and the other is patent. The other is patent. The fair value of these equipment is 500 and this is 1000. So I will now proceed to allocate 1400 in ratio of fair value. So 1400 into 500 by 1500. This is going to be 1400 into 1000 by 1500. Okay, so this comes to how much? This comes to 1400 divided by 3. So this is 467. Whereas here it is 1400 into 2 by 3. This is 933 crores. So if I have to look at the journal entry that I will pass, it will be equipment account debit 467, patent account debit 933, to bank 1000, to land आपका carrying value is 100 only, to gain on barter. This goes to P&L 300. Okay, you cannot take it to revaluation reserve because here you are selling the land. Here you are selling the land, and that is why gain on barter will be taken to be 300. It will be 300. Fair value 400 minus carrying amount 100. So this is how you are going to do this. Okay. Illustration 1. Have you guys understood this? Yes. Have you understood this part? Clear? Okay. Fair value of land is correct. That's right. But your book value is 100, no, Anuj? So what is going out is book value. The difference is the gain which you are taking to the P&L. Okay. All clear? Good to go? Yes. Land fair value was 200 or 400. The fair value of land is 400 crores. Okay. 400, not 200. Okay. Yeah. Carrying amount is 200. Okay. Is it okay? Yes. So we are clear about, sir, land directly will not be recorded at 400. कैसे करोगे? If you take land at 400, you are giving up land. If you take land at 400, The land will appear at a credit of 300, which is not right. No, you are transferring. So transfer what goes out, credit what goes out at the carrying amount. The excess is going to be your gain. Excess is going to be your gain. Is it okay? Srishti, did you follow? Soham confirmed. Kaushiki got it. Anuj, did you follow? Soham, Rahul Patel, Shailendra Singh, Nidhi Deshpande, Gopi, all clear? Yes, Aniket Jain, Sumit Jain. सब ठीक? Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. गड़बड़ी में equipment. That's right, Anuj. So that is what I have also done. Patent is 933. That is also correct. Yes. All clear? All right. So with that, we conclude today's session. We've done quite a bit. It was mostly theory, but we could touch upon the concepts. In the next class, it's very important session. Don't miss up anything in business combination and consolidation. In the next session, we'll be actually starting with the business combination process. We will understand how the business account combination accounting is done, how goodwill is recognized, and we will see all the adjustments that go in the way of recording. Okay. So the next class is pretty important. And with that, we conclude today's session. My request to you is tomorrow is a holiday and you have a Monday also. So whatever we have done, there are about 10 to 15 questions, theory questions relating to what is a business, what is control in Ind AS 110 and Ind AS 103. So my request is please go through those theory questions. You should be able to clearly solve that without any difficulty because you know the concept of business as well as control today. Okay, so please do it and let me know if you have any difficulty. It's only theory, just for your knowledge, you can practice it. Okay, so with that, we conclude our session for now and see you guys on Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning, we start with a small recap and then continue with the topic. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Nisarg.